Hey, so I wanted to welcome everyone to this call. I just wanted to have one of our AEs who just closed on a business hop on, just kind of give you a little bit more about his experience and kind of what he went through. Most of you guys probably know, well, not most of you guys, but I know some of you know Kevin Cooper. He just closed on the acquisition of Kyle Plumbing out in. You guys are in Florida, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Deerfield
Deerfield
Beach.
Beach, Florida. That's right. So I just wanted Kevin to kind of jump on and we'll talk a little bit about kind of his experience, kind of what he went through in the process. This probably won't be that long of a call because I know he's got some child responsibilities and additional work that he has to deal with, as well as I do, because I'm getting ready to hit the road for a little while. But real quick, before we jump into that, if anyone is located, and I want an AE that's actually located in New Jersey or close to that market. So if you live in California, don't ask me about this or don't reach out to me on it. But if you're kind of in the New Jersey market or you're really close to the New Jersey market and you have some interest in looking for a business in New Jersey, just hit me up through Slack. I'm putting together an opportunity for a pretty good business that a banker friend of mine came across. That he reached out to me, told him we might have someone in our group that might have an interest in this business. But I only want someone who's kind of in that market because maybe a situation where you may need to get to the business, or obviously, if you have to move there, I don't want it to be too much of a situation where you're going way out of your way. So if you live in Texas and you don't want to live in New Jersey, please do not reach out to me. But if you have an interest in a New Jersey-based business, hit me up through Slack, and I'm putting together a package right now. Once that's done, I'll send it over to you. I have to put together kind of a blind package because I signed the NDA, and I can't just provide that information to you. But if it's something that is of interest to you after getting the blind package that I'm putting together, then we'll go ahead and have you set up to sign an NDA and kind of move you forward from that standpoint.
What part of Jersey?
Rahway.
I might be interested now. My brother lives there. He's a general contractor. I grew up right next to Rahway, and he's in Mountainside. He's got a $3.5 million revenue GC company, and 20 minutes away from Rahway.
All right, nice. Well, then I will put together a package for you. Anybody else as well? It's not just for one. So if multiple people want to look at it, that's fine. But thanks. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so Kev, you just closed on a business, plumbing business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the business itself, maybe how you found it, kind of what the size of the business is, and what sparked your interest in it.
Yeah, so it perfectly fit my investment thesis as far as I was geographically specific and agnostic towards the actual trade itself, because I just have personal reasons to kind of stay in South Florida. So I was looking within anywhere from Vero Beach down to Miami, so give or take like an hour north, hour west, hour south, and this happened to be 30 minutes from my house. So I found it on DealStream.
Okay.
A broker put it on there, and it was about 900K SDE. I think I kind of validated about 750 of it. So it's kind of like a 3 to 4x multiple, depending on what the numbers shake out to be. So they do 60% commercial, 40% residential, and they've been around for 30 years. Their website's decent. I mean, it seems like at the time, it seemed like they had a pretty good business structure. They were kind of restructuring, I think, in preparation to sell, as far as they've got service plumbers. So there's a service manager that handles the service plumbers for like more residential, smaller jobs, 24/7 service as well. For there's like 4 plumbers on the service side. He manages that, dispatch, and all that stuff. And then at the time when I first started looking at it, they just hired this guy, like more of a foreman, superintendent, who handles the construction plumbers, and they do more commercial jobs, bigger residential jobs, kinds of things. And then you have the owner and his brother both do estimates. And then they even have his wife that does HR. So there was already a budget in place to kind of replace her with a property and culture, people and culture person. So it was kind of structured that way, like in the way that you trained us all to look, to kind of have some of that stuff in place. They also have like a warehouse manager, which apparently is kind of unique because they've got some parts and equipment on site. They've got 13 trucks and they've got like a blocked off area that's gated with security cameras and stuff. So it's pretty professional, pretty well run. Their pricing structure is really more, they're not the highest. They're never going to be the lowest, but they're like middle to middle high, which I like. Right. So they're kind of focused, and they don't really try to spread themselves too thin. They really, they kind of focus on mainly working with 5 contractors. And they get all their other business through word of mouth on the residential side. So it just seemed like there's plenty of opportunity from a marketing standpoint. They're not doing much. They're doing like 1 or 2 posts a month. So marketing is tremendous opportunity. They weren't using their technology super outdated. So they're not using Service Titan, which we're going to use. So there was just a lot of opportunities. I think some easy wins, relatively easy, quote unquote, to kind of just make some changes. But it already has some good bones. So it's kind of, and again, a lot of this, like I know now because I've done it like 2.5 weeks ago, but looking at it, that was kind of the general vibe that I got. And then as I dug deeper, it actually came to fruition.
Okay. How long did it take you, like from the time that you started looking at the deal to actually getting to LOI? How long was that? Because it seemed like it was
well, I want to say it was probably only like 4 to 6 weeks, but I think it actually took longer because maybe about a month to get an LOI together, but they ended up going in another direction to a private equity group. I think that kind of came in, and that was, typically not the size for a private equity group. They paid $3 million for it, but the broker had a lot of contacts there. He's like a heavy hitter kind of broker. He sold to really large companies, so I think he just made some phone calls. So they were going to go that route because they had a better offer. It was cash. They were going to close in like 30 days. And I understood. But I think my saving grace was I kind of sent them the ACE framework. And the owner was very big on the culture and taking care of his people. And he didn't want a private equity group coming in and just like, really just shifting everything, firing employees, or just making a bad work environment. So he ended up coming back because it seemed like that was the case. So even though he was going to get more money, there was nobody local like me to run it. So it was very clear that they were just going to, maybe they were going to send somebody later, but it was very clear that that's not what he wanted. So he came back.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So when you, as you kind of went through this deal, and I know since you closed it, have you, initially, from what I remember, one of the owner's brother was in the business and had a license or what have you. Is he planning on sticking around, or what kind of, what's the deal with him? Yeah, I remember we had a conversation about it.
That was a total issue. So I guess, so it was really, the owner called for taking home like $200,000 a year plus his brother. And so the owner was doing like the smaller estimates. His brother had the license and he was paying him like $2,500 a month for the license and like $170K a year, like just out, kind of crazy because you should be able to get paid like 100, maybe 120. So he was paying him for the license and he was doing the estimates on the bigger jobs. And he had thought, he gave his brother the heads up that he was looking to sell and he's ill. That's why he was selling. And he was like, okay, let me know, keep me posted. So basically like 3-4 weeks before we're about to close, like we put a non-compete, non-solicit employment contract in front of him, told him to look at it. And that, I guess he just kind of got aggravated with that. So he got his own lawyer and then he started trying to like blackmail his brother saying like, I'm not going to let you use my license unless you give me $200,000 from the sale. And he's only worked with his brother for 2 years and his brother's sick. So like everyone was like, what? And I was like, all right, well, we need a license. So I thought the deal was going to die. So I was really nervous. Turns out the owner's son-in-law had an active license that they used in the past. So we did skipped that over, got a 12-month agreement with him to pay him $2,500 a month for his license, and we just cut his brother out and said, all right, we're going to close without you. We didn't tell him until we closed. So we closed, and I just and I saw him, and he was kind of shocked, and I was like, hey, what's up? I bought the business. And then 2 days later, he put in his 2 weeks notice. So we're just gonna. It's fine. No one agrees with what he did, but we got around it, and we have the license, and we're looking just to replace him. It's going to be better anyway, but it was like really, it was very unexpected. And really he's not a good dude. That wasn't.
Yeah. I know we had some periphery conversations about it, but I wasn't sure exactly what ended up happening with him. So why don't we just in general just talk about kind of like what was the biggest thing that you felt like you struggled with during the process, what surprised you, what was probably easier than you thought, kind of give the lay of the land to everyone else about kind of maybe some things that may surprise them throughout this process.
I would say, I mean, the hardest part was just like being patient and trying to manage your emotions because, once you get a good deal and you got LOI, it's very exciting and you want to try to move as fast as possible.
I'll say this before you finish. Let me just tell everyone. So Kevin is a get it done kind of guy. Yeah. So if he's got something that he needs to get done and he asks you about it, don't sit on it for a few hours because Kevin will want to know where you are. Where are you with this? So he's a very get it done kind of person, which I think benefited you in this process to keep pushing things along. But go ahead.
Yeah. So like there's a right and a wrong way to do that, right? Yeah. So like I lost my cool a couple of times, and I was just like, you got to like really try to enjoy the process, but you do need you need a sense of urgency though, because the broker constantly said like time kills deals. So, and I also had to shift from banks because I went with one bank and then I lost 6 weeks. So I was just trying to make sure I didn't lose the deal, but you got a lot of people involved. So it's just really, you really got to steer the ship, but you got to be kind of smart about, how you interact with people. Everyone's got different personalities. Some people might, be better with texting, calling, or emailing. So it all ended up working out, but it was just managing all of those people. And it just tends to get more intense as you approach the end, because then you got the bank coming in, you got quality of earnings coming in, you've got so many things, so many questions, so many things to analyze. And sometimes you just got to push back on stuff too. Like the bank was asking for a lot of stuff that was really unnecessary. The quality of earnings people was great, the quality of earnings, but like there was a point at the end that you could tell their book people were getting very frustrated. And I was like, hey man, do we really need all this stuff? And he cut the list in half. And I was like, he's like, will this help? And I was like, yeah, but does that get you what you need? He was like, yeah. I was like, then why are you asking for all the other stuff? You know what I mean? So like sometimes like people just want to see stuff to see it. And I'm like, let's just ask for what we need answers for. Because at this point, fundamentally I was already in. So I'm like, I just needed buy-in from other people. So that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
The easier part was probably working with the broker, surprisingly, because he was actually extremely competent. We're actually friendly. He actually called me 3 days ago and he was like, hey, I know this is not good timing, but I have a small plumbing company for sale if you're interested. So I actually met with that guy and I'm like, it's not a good time, but like, whatever, I'll meet him. So it was cool. That was I underestimated that because my experience with brokers before that was not that good. And that's probably similar to everybody else's. And I actually introduced him to Acquira. So that was actually pleasant. And then surprisingly, I didn't really have a lot of interaction with the owner because the broker was kind of shielding us until we had that issue with the owner's brother. And that's when I really got along with the owner because we were both on the same page. We were working together and he was really appreciative of like how I handled the situation because I was basically like, listen, man, I like your business. Let's think about how we can restructure this. Like, is there another license we could get? So he actually signed on. He signed an agreement that said if my brother quits, I'll stay on for 6 months to do his job. Thank God I got him to sign.
Nice.
So like he was very happy to that. We were able to really work well together and just kind of just go with the flow. And that's when we really got so that I got a really good level of comfort with him towards the end. So that was kind of surprising.
Super cool. Super cool. Yeah. James Walbridge, who's located in Florida too, wanted to know who the broker was.
Oh, it's Wes Shelton. If you want, I can give you his contact info, but I mean, he represents sellers. So, but if you run across Wes, it's like SM2 Brokers or something like that. He's in Boca, but he's phenomenal. He's really good.
Cool, cool. So how was it? I know kind of as we went through this process, kind of you had to shift gears. You were initially going to use Rob's to kind of invest in the business, and then working with Chris on the equity side with the equity fund, he indicated that couldn't use Rob's for the capital that we would bring in. How did that I don't think it necessarily slowed down the process substantially, but how was it working with Chris? Because I know it got to there was a lot of points where Chris had to reach out directly with the banks, with the bank you were using, because there's a lot of detail around. They didn't really understand exactly how the investment was going to work. I mean, kind of talk about that process. Obviously you still have a full head of hair, so it didn't cause you to pull your hair out.
You got to see the back.
Yeah. But was it easy? Was it difficult on the equity side, working with trying to get the equity lined up, or was that just more just a lot of busy work that you had to deal with?
That was really busy work. It was just like, thankfully I had other cash elsewhere. So I was just, my plan was like thinking the next acquisition or the third acquisition, like, hey, let me use up my 401k dollars for the ROPS program first, and then I'll have more liquidity later, kind of thing. But then since I was going to partner with the equity fund, you can't have two share classes with the ROPS program. So how the equity fund works is there's preferred shares and then common stock shares. And that's how it's just, without getting too heavy into the details, it's just, it's the only way that the acquirer fund will be able to work and help co-invest, because there's easier ways for them to manipulate like the ownership percentages to stay under the 20% threshold. So it's just kind of like a lot of legal jargon, and you need to have two share classes. And with the traditional ROBS program, you can't do that. It's also, since I switched banks 6 weeks in and I had a 90-day exclusion right, and my 90 days started from the time I signed the LOI. He wouldn't do it from the time I got the diligence material, which is smart on his end. So, but that's why I kind of had to rush too, because I only had another 6 weeks left. And I got approved in 10 days. And the new bank, which was First Internet Bank, had said, if you go the ROBS route, it's going to push closing back an extra 3 to 4 weeks. And I was like, all right, well, ROBS is out, then I'm done. So I scrapped it. And I still have the plan open, but it was one of those things. It just wouldn't have made sense, for a lot of reasons. So I just kind of went.
Cool. So to clarify, you can't do ROBS rollover combined with the acquired equity fund. That is correct, Sam. So let me just ask you this at a general level. You've been sitting in the seat now for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
How's it been thus far? Like business ownership? I know because you got a lot of other stuff going on outside the company as well. So how's the actual being an owner? How's that suiting you thus far?
I love it. I mean, like the first day is like pretty terrifying. It's not terrifying, but it's kind of awkward because you got to go in there. It's new, right? You got to make the announcement. There was a lot of emotions, which was a good thing because there was a lot of people crying with the news. It was like good tears though, so that was good. But then, they don't know me. So it's like, who's this guy that's taking over? So you're really just starting from scratch. So it was just really, that first day, but after we did the announcement, it was like a huge weight off of all of our shoulders. And then it was really just getting to know everybody. I would highly recommend using the ACE program. And I told, everyone on the ACE side that I'm working with Tim and Brian, I think it's suicide if this is your first time to go to buy a deal and not have the ACE program in place. And that was also one of the reasons why I chose this company, because they have 22 employees, and I thought ACE would have been a perfect fit for it. I looked at some other deals that had 7 employees and may not have gotten the best use out of ACE, hypothetically. But since they were there with me at that first day, we covered so much more ground. So they were there to kind of back me up if I missed something, to kind of fill in the gaps. And then they were also there. They were there for 2 days. So they were interviewing people, just talking to people, making sure everyone was kind of calm. They did some ride-alongs with some of the service plumbers. They went to some jobs for some construction sites. Yeah, so it was really, we covered so much ground in 2 days to kind of calm people down. And everyone's main concern was, 1, what's going to change? And 2, am I keeping my job? So it was just kind of having that statement, organized, being prepared to kind of have the right message.
Yeah.
And the owners kind of coordinated with that too. They were kind of like, hey, focus on these three things. And we just kept it simple.
Yeah.
And what I underestimated was how much time it takes to kind of really you want to really spend time with the people, because you really just want to get to know them, get their trust. And as you start to build relationships, they're also trying to build relationships with you because you're the new boss. So as long as they want to keep their job, they're going to try to become friendly with you, which is a good thing, but it gets time consuming. So that's the only thing I underestimated, but it's a good thing. It's just taking a lot more time to kind of do that. But otherwise, I like it. The first week was really like drinking out of a fire hose, understanding how they operate and whatnot. Now it's getting a little bit easier. I think I got really lucky though, to be honest with you, because there's probably 4 key management members that I can really lean on, and they're actually really fast and good at what they do. So it makes my job so much easier. So it's not like, the finance person, we're already almost done. We're pretty close to getting finished with the finance module for the ACE program.
Wow, that's
fast. We're already looking to do hire a people and culture person. We just interviewed our second person today.
Okay.
And I got buy-in on Service Titan to start the second week of August, which is like 5 weeks from now.
Nice. You did move fast.
Yeah. And I wasn't rushing anything. It was just everything that they taught me to get buy-in and empowerment. So far it's looking good. Things are starting to slow down a bit.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of things that I want to do, but having those people to lean on makes my job that much easier because I can delegate pretty
Very cool. Very cool. So have you met with every single employee thus far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Surprisingly, I remember all of their names except for this one guy, Ricardo. I keep forgetting his name for some reason.
Yeah, it's Ricardos and Richards are easy to forget. One quick question from Max. Kevin, do you have past experience in plumbing? If not, how do you gain the confidence of the seller and employees without industry experience pre and post acquisition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, I don't have any experience in plumbing. My background's in finance and personal wealth management.
Yeah.
So my conversation to the broker and the owner very first day was, hey, I have no experience in plumbing. This is my background. So I just prepared, on my own time, like what skill sets I have that I think would be valuable if I buy a home services business. So I kind of focused and honed in on those. And I talked about Acquira, I talked about the ACE program. And then I also have my brother who's an angel investor, who's a general contractor. He's in New Jersey though, but that just kind of strengthens, my story. And I just kind of explained, hey, I'm not trying to be a plumber. I don't want to know the details of the plumbing side. My goal is to manage the managers and to really help strategize from high level, bring in marketing, sales, processes, technology, all of that stuff, culture, and just manage from that sense, and build a team around the team. And I said, does that work for you? Because if it doesn't, I don't want to waste your time. That's just full disclosure. And they said, yeah, I think that might work. And it was a concern of his as we kind of went down the stretch. Thankfully, though, the broker had said, in the past, he bought personally a healthcare company, and he had no clue about what they did. He just liked the business. And he said the owner trained him how to do everything pretty quickly. And then, part of that was like, hey, trying to figure out what the owner does. And he had said he could train me to do his estimating work. And then I guess after the first week, he saw how well, I guess I was doing with building relationships and kind of how things were flowing. And he was kind of like, you know what, Kev, let's just hire somebody to replace me and my brother.
That's what I was gonna say.
And you just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, that's music to my ears, man, because you guys get paid so much money that I can replace both of you, your wife, and including me, and I actually saved $25K. So, and it's just, my life is that much easier because now I just hired his replacement, and I'm working on hiring his brother's replacement and replacing HR. So as long as I get the good people in there to do the work, then I'm good. I can just continue doing what I like to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in that situation, it almost would make sense to hire somebody who does have an interest. Either they have a plumbing background or they're really heavily interested in plumbing, because it almost creates even for a lower level employee, a career path for them. Well, Kevin's not sitting in kind of the GM seat to actually run this thing the day to day. He's strategizing, he owns the company or whatever, but there's a possibility that I could possibly help him run this business because I have the technical experience versus what
Right.
he brings in terms of the business. So
Right.
yeah,
And then actually, so we just hired a guy yesterday to be his
Yeah.
replacement, and he is like perfect GM material in my mind. And I had told him that, like, hey, I'm going to start you off here, and within probably a year or so, you'll probably be GM, and your compensation will go up because I'm going to be looking for my next acquisition, kind of thing. So that provides exactly what you mentioned, a career path for that person, and it's somebody that knows he can pick up that estimating job very easily. And then it's not that I don't want to learn that stuff; it just gives me a longer time and buys me way more time to start picking it up and learning it. Again, I don't want to be the expert there because, like, I don't know, you probably shouldn't be an expert there. So
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, you guys have any other questions for Kevin? I know he's got some stuff to do. I'll let him.
I would say one thing I learned really quick, and then I'll take your questions is and Rich, maybe we want to talk about this at some point, but the working capital piece is crazy important. And thankfully, I structured this deal kind of differently. So I got working capital from the bank. I got working capital in the form of accounts receivable from the owner, which is great. So I had extra cash to pay for the ACE program, coaching, closing costs, a little bit extra. And then I had capital to kind of manage the day-to-day. But then my angel investor, I had them bring in $300K as a 10% owner on a $3 million deal. Thank God I did that, because now I'm able to move. And I think that's why I'm moving much faster, because these two guys that I just hired, I hired another guy that's like high-end residential, like a stud plumber.
Wow.
I offered, they were giving a referral fee of like $1,500 to their employees. And I was like, that's too low. So I was like, I'll give you guys $2,500 if you refer me, this level plumber, and $5,000 if you replace this guy. And I got 2 referrals, and I hired both of them. One of those is the GM. We hired a recruiter that's going to be like 20% of the salary for the other senior plumber, which would be $20,000. Some of them might want some new shirts. I might need to upgrade some like technology. I'd upgrade some security systems. So I would throw in an extra $100K, honestly, just so you can kind of do the things that you want to do. It's an investment into the business, but these things came up that I didn't think about. But it allowed me to move that much faster, because I already got 2 hires that are really good guys, or at least I think so. And by the way, like that bonus that I'm going to give them, I'm paying them after 90 days. So I got to make sure the guy's good and they stay on board.
Nice.
So things like that I didn't think about. So if you can get more capital up front, and Chris even said that, he's like, dude, that's a lot of working capital. I was like, Chris, I just want to have extra cash, and if I don't need it, I'll use the cash for the next acquisition. So if you can get extra money in there, I would do that. It's very helpful. And it makes you mentally, now I have 20 people's salaries to pay. So mentally, I know I've got this bucket of cash on the side. I'm spending it smart, but it just helps with a lot of things.
Yeah, but again, it's working capital, so it's going to turn around hopefully in revenue that's going to come recirculate right back to you. So it's
correct,
like you're just using it up. So that makes sense. Ryan asks, do you have plans to get out of the business eventually to do another acquisition or other? If so, what is your target time frame? And did you discuss that with the broker seller beforehand?
I told them my strategy was to do a roll up, and kind of start, and everyone kind of knows that internally, and it's really pumping people up, because they're like, so they kind of see my vision, and I'm like, listen, the next one's going to be a plumbing company, it could be HVAC, it could be electrical, depends on the type of business where it's located. And definitely not now, probably, I don't know, a year and a half out, could be sooner. I really just need to get a lot of the, I guess the ACE framework components down, which is going to take 9 months. So certainly no sooner than 9 months, but I really got to build in some systems and processes and procedures and get everything, in a good spot, so that we're kind of firing on all cylinders before I look for the next one. But my goal is to, organically grow this, and then once the systems are set up, try to find another company, probably plumbing, just because it'll be easier. Because if I know that landscape, I know the area, it'll be easier for me to integrate that with what we're doing. But that doesn't have to be the case. But once we have the processes and the system in place, that'll be a way easier integration. It's already set up, and we can just kind of slowly start to train those people and plug and play. So that's my goal with that.
Yeah, that's and one thing you'll find out there too is, now that you have a company under your belt, it's going to be a lot easier for you to kind of reach out to targets and say, look, I'm already, I own Kyle's Plumbing. This is what we do. and sellers are going to be, their ears are going to perk up a lot more than if you're just buying right off the street. So that's kind of the benefit of getting through that first acquisition.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer this question. I know your answer, and it's kind of funny because I know the experience we had on this side with this. But Michael asks, how was First Internet Bank?
A complete disaster. I mean, listen, they got the deal done, but and Alan, yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Alan. He's the initial person that we talked to, but it wasn't Alan's fault.
Yeah.
The underwriting staff at First Internet is not good, and my lawyer, I used Aegis, Jeff, he was fantastic, by the way. If any of you are looking to use them, thank God. Put it this way, Jeff has a flat fee option where you can pay $20K, and he does that, which it just kind of insulates you if the time runs out, or if you kind of lose out on the first deal, which I did, and you're kind of capped. Or he'll charge you hourly, and he said usually it'll cost anywhere from like 10 to maybe 16K on the high end. He went back and looked at the numbers. It probably would have been about $30,000 for my deal because of the bank, because of so much back and forth and sending them documents 4 and 5 times. And the biggest, asking for things is one thing, but we were supposed to, like, this was the weekend of Memorial Day weekend, right? So people weren't really working that Friday. Monday was off. We were supposed to close on that Wednesday afterwards, right? The Wednesday before, a week before, she said, "Hey, just send me all this stuff by Thursday, and we'll be good." We sent everything they asked for in advance. Tuesday comes, I get an email at the end of the day. Couldn't get in touch with the underwriter until the end of the day when we're supposed to close the next day, and say, "Hey, we're not clear to close. I'll let you know like in a day or two when we can close again." And I absolutely flipped out. That's when I lost my emotions, and I had to call the management. Thank God I got to close like a week later, but the amount of documents and information that they still needed was I'm like, guys, you just told me to send you this and we're good. And now you have this entire list. It's almost like we started all over again.
Yeah.
So I was really, really upset about that. And, again, nothing bad to say about Alan, but my lawyer that was probably the 3rd time that he's worked with them. And at this point, he probably won't work with them again because of that, because it was just going back and forth.
Yeah. Jeff seemed a little annoyed.
Well, I told Jeff, I said, "Listen, man, if you charge hourly, you actually make out because you're getting double or triple. Thank God." I sent him a $300 bottle of bourbon because he did all that extra work, and he was so easy to work with.
Yeah, Jeff is easy guy to work with. And I guess Noah just asked, how did you estimate how much working capital you needed? I know we looked at some numbers together and then kind of compared that to what people came up with and just kind of ballparked it.
Yeah, so I did quality of earnings with people, and he kind of put together a range of low, middle, high.
Yeah.
And he was kind of saying "Hey, I think 360 is the number." And I was like, "All right." So I went back to the broker and said, "I think 400,000 is the number." That's the one thing I learned too with negotiating. Always go high, you can go low. Right. So I was like, "I think it's 400." He's like, "All right." He came back. He's like, "I think it should be 360." And I was like, "Fine, done." So he came back at what I wanted anyway. And then and that was just looking at, they look at a lot of different things, and that's kind of a complicated thing. So you really, I guess, Rich and I have talked about that too. It's when you buy the business, you should have enough working capital to keep the business running, which is important because you don't have access to the bank account, checking account, any of that stuff. Thank God I also did a stock purchase, which takes on more liability. But I bought a truck 2 days later under the company because I get to use their credit history. Also, Rich, I don't think we have this in the diligence, but I don't know if you can run credit reports on the businesses because they have stellar credit, thankfully. But I bought a truck, so I stepped into their ability to get credit. So I'm looking to get in the line of credit too. So there's a lot of good things that come out of the stock purchase as long as you structure the deal properly. Even the contract, I don't have to re-permit anything. All my ongoing contracts are still the same. But that's safe, and that's probably why I've been able to move so fast because I didn't have to really waste much time. They're moving the credit cards over to me, everything. So that worked really, really well, if that answers your question. So we got that from working capital, and then that was just to run the business, right? And then I had to add extra whatever else was on top, like the lawyer fee, coaching fee, ACE fee, whatever. And then I added even more on top. So I just wanted to really crush it with cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah, I get. So I think this final question here, Mark Edwards asks, how did you project future EBITDA? I think we took we just used a normal growth factor, right?
Yeah, it was just a normal growth factor in the, you know, in the projections that you do. So all that stuff is great. I honestly, I don't even know if the bank read the business plan, to be honest. Like, I spent a lot of time on that because they were asking me questions and I'm like, it's in the freaking business plan, you know, but like they didn't critique it.
Yeah.
And that could have been the bank, but like, I don't know. But I just used the normal projections that we use with growth in like the town, like everything that's already built, I used.
Good, cool. What did you have to come out of pocket with for the whole deal, or was it all wrapped into the loan closing?
So I put in like 75,000. The down payment was what, 340,
340.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I put in
340,
75.
Okay.
I put in 75. The acquirer fund put in the rest. And then I came out of pocket probably like another 33,000 of costs that I kind of then just reimbursed myself after the additional working capital that came into play. So call it 100K all in, kind of number, right? So
okay,
that's on a $3 million kind of deal. And you can kind of mess with that, you know, when you talk to Chris about like, because you can put in more, and then the fund will take less of a percentage. So it was more of a conversation. And again, I was thinking like 2 or 3 acquisitions in advance. Like, all right, how can I plan out my next one so I have enough cash to do those? And that's just me assuming I'm not taking any money out of the business, which I obviously will, assuming all goes well. So I was just trying to pre-plan that way.
Yeah.
But that was
that's smart of you.
Yeah.
Smart of you. All right. Well, Kev, man, thanks for it seems like you managed through this process. You got this thing humming along early in the process. Obviously, there's a lot of work still left to do. And man, I wish you the best of luck. And obviously we'll be in touch and we'll still be working together. But great job on your first acquisition. And hopefully we get to 2, 3, 4, 5 down the road with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for the time. And, you know, let me know if you want me to come back at any time, because there was a lot of things that I learned along the way. Guys, I'm on Slack too, Kevin Cooper. So if you've got questions and stuff that you come up with, just let me know. And I can kind of fill you in on how I negotiate. The one thing, like the LOI, there's a lot of creative things you can do in that, which saves you a lot of time on the back end as far as like seller note and stuff like that. So feel free to ask me, like, you know, all the advice you get from Rich and everybody else is great. That's what I leverage. But if you have any questions, you know, from my deal, feel free to reach out.
Cool. All right, Kev, man, we'll talk to you sooner rather than later. And good luck. Let me know how everything's going. And I'm sure Brian will keep me up to date because I'm sure him and his team will be out there for a few more months anyway, right?
Yeah. I talk to them every Friday too. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Talk to Brian. He knows what's up.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Kev, and everyone else. I will let you guys know I'll be in North Carolina next week. So we're probably going to still have a call. I just have to figure out logistically how that's going to happen. I got to figure out if my son will be playing on that day. But for sure, just plan on us having a call, and I will talk to you guys or see you guys next week. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, everyone else. See ya.